Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks bringing you an update in Bitcoin, a weekly update. We're making this a regular series now every week. You can expect it on our Wicked Stocks YouTube channel. I did record this video, by the way, Sunday, June 15th, 2025. And I like to always start with the big picture. It is the longer term signals, the longer term trends that rule the market in the end. And this is a good image of a buy signal that occurred last November when we closed above a 5-year channel top. This put Bitcoin in what I would kind of describe as a new normal, which is to say continued higher trade into the 100,000s handle, the 100,000 handle, if you will. Having settled above this 84,408 channel top, and it was lower then, did set up 122,433. At the time I was talking 3 to 5 months. Obviously, we're well into that. We're maybe, 7, 8 months into that right now without having reached it, but it's still an objective above 84,408. We did fall back to retest, obviously, this channel top during all the initial tariff talk on Liberation Day, et cetera, while we spiked below this important line study, this important floor of support, we did not close below it on a weekly basis. And so for all intents and purposes, it was a hold. One could certainly have been forgiven for having been shaken out of a Bitcoin long position during this process. But bottom line, there was no reason to play the short side of the market as we move into later year, still anticipating 122,433, and that still remains a longer term objective. I'm going to move through a series of charts and show that we did have a buy signal back in April, the week of April 21st, when we closed above this short-term channel top. It indicated the extreme channel top that we pushed right through when we tested it that week of May 5th. It is now at 97,668 and represents pullback support. Having closed above a descending channel at the top of a move, it does set up 122,433, as I keep saying, a 2 to 3 month objective. But once again, we're about a month and a half into that without any follow through, without any settlement, I should say, above 109,192, which was the January high. While we pushed through that January high, we've yet to close above it on a weekly basis. And were we to do so, say, this week, I think we're just another month, 2 at the most, from reaching 122,433. Let's move on to the next chart. I'm going to zoom in here, and there's a lot going on below the market. I'll walk us through that, but first and foremost, I'll talk about 109,192 that I just described. You can see how we pushed through it the last month, month and a half, but have yet to close above it on a weekly basis. Were we to do so, I would expect this longer-term objective at 122,433 within a month or two. Until then, there is room for the market to ease back. Now, there's a lot going on. There's the descending channel top I showed in the previous slide at 97,668. That is our base of support. That lines up really well this week with the downside 3/8 Fibonacci. And that is a 3/8 Fibonacci from this April low against the more recent May high. So they line up very well this week. They're 27 points apart. And there's also, and this is mostly for 3 to 5 day and even 1 to 2 week swing traders, 99,503. And you could disregard this if you like, but I put it there as a descending channel bottom that may actually contain selling ahead of this 97,600 handle support. In other words, it may keep the market from testing the significant 97,668, 641. We could bottom out at 99,503 and then turn back up to 109,192 again within 2 to 3 weeks of doing so. This is kind of the near-term, short-term dynamic. But bottom line, I'll take you back to this image, which is to say that holding above 97,668, I see no good reason to be short Bitcoin if your time horizon is the next 2 to 3 months out.
If you're finding value in this analysis, it's only a glimpse of what we offer. Your real trading edge starts at wickedstocks.com. Each week, premium members receive 2 high-probability stock picks. Each one comes with a complete trade plan, including exact entry, profit target, stop loss, and regular updates so you can manage the trade with confidence. You'll also get daily video analysis in the top traded markets, the SPY, the Triple Q, and NVIDIA, highlighting the key price levels, trends, and trade setups we're focused on. Whether you're day trading or swing trading, these insights help you zero in on the highest quality opportunities with clarity. Try it all free for 5 days. Cancel at any time.
Now, you might play the short side if you're more of a near-term swing trader, or maybe you unload your long position and you reinvest, or you load up again on a long position into this 97,668 to 99,503 region, where we could then anticipate upward rotation back into the low 100,000 handle again, 109, 192. Now, we are ultimately anticipating a settlement above 109, 192. I just think it's a matter of time. Holding above 97,668 maintains a buy signal into the 122, 126,000 area, which I'll talk about in a second. If we close above 109, 192, I've already mentioned how I would expect 122, 433 within 1 to 2 months. But, I see in terms of sellable resistance, in terms of a line study and a channel structure that may contain buying through the rest of the year and into 26, that is 126, 942. So if we close above 109, 192, and you're not long Bitcoin and you're itching to go long, if you will, then I think that is a good signal for doing so, because within 2 to 3 months at the most, I'd say more like 2 months, a 5 to 8 week rally into the 122, 433 to 126, 942 area, where profits can be taken on that position, on that 1 to 2 month position. And in fact, if there's a means for you to play the short side, whether it's in ETFs or out of the money puts of some sort that it might be structured, you could do so in this vicinity, anticipating then bearish rotation back into, at that point in time, as I've been saying, if we test this channel top and it holds well, then we have a channel bottom that is nothing more than a trend line now at 81,570. So it could be a situation where we top out in the 120s and fall back within 3 to 5 months, a half a year or so, to fall back to this channel bottom, which is rising on a continuous basis, possibly back to 100,000 as we continue operating within the confines of this channel structure. Let's talk downside briefly, and that is to say that if we do close below, and that is the lowest level, remember, I'll take us back to this chart, 97,641 is the 3/8 downside Fibonacci. It's just below this descending channel top at 97,668. And so really what I'm conveying here is if we were to close below 97,641, we would have set off a couple of other sell signals in the process, and that should yield. In fact, if we close below 97,641, I would expect within 1 to 2 months, 84,408, a return to that 5-year channel top, where the Bitcoin can be bought through the rest of the year. And I want to call this kind of a range down to 76,078. This classic rising channel bottom represents a base of support that may well absorb selling well into 26. I don't see a good reason to play the short side in Bitcoin through the rest of the year and into next unless we close below 76,078 on weakness. And I think that would be a significant downside tipping point well into next year. Another area to play the short side, but on strength, is this 126,942. This is an area where we could top out as well on a quarterly, possibly annual basis. I think that pretty much rounds it out for this week's Bitcoin analysis. I'll be back again next week with another weekly video analysis on Bitcoin. You have a great week.